I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, it's Saturday, so let's do a bit of an investment blog, the positive mindset you need to be successful in life, whether that's investing or whatever, learning how to play the guitar, starting a business. Life is whatever you make of it. So I want to cover a couple of things here. Been reading a bunch of books here, and one of the books I'm reading on investing here talks about why most investors fail. Most business books I read always talk a little bit about this. You know, what causes most people saving for retirement or saving to retire early? What trips them up the most? And the big thing that keeps coming back, of course, is they don't have a game plan. Or if they have a game plan, they might start off okay, but then they're like a weather, a windmill. They go whichever way the direction of the wind takes them. They don't stick to the formula. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I get a lot of people that comment on my blog here and talk to me on Twitter, and they say, oh, and it's the one thing I know about you in the last 10 or 11 years I've been following your blog. You never change your outlook on things, your strategy. And yeah, you're right. I've been doing this for 35 years now. Bought my first stock, bought my first home 35 years ago. My philosophies towards investing and buying and holding real estate have never changed one bit. I've been through incredible bull markets and some terrible, terrible bear markets over that time. The 08-09 crash when my portfolio got cut in half. Geez, my stock portfolio just dropped 30 or 35% just at this time last year. But I never waver in my conviction, and that conviction is just a buy high quality assets, whether that's Vancouver real estate or good quality US and Canadian companies, and then hang on to them. Preferably, a lot of the companies I hold are so profitable and so wonderful that they pay you a quarterly dividend to hold the company. They pay you to keep it. And take those dividends and just keep reinvesting it. Like Warren Buffett says, the eighth wonder of the world, compounding, and let that snowball continue to grow. But that's something that I see so much on YouTube and some of these other bloggers. They change their mind. They're all over the place. Some of these guys back in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, the market's headed for a crash, sell, printing money, foreign buyers, all this stuff is going to bring down the market. Now I see some of these guys that the market's on a rip saying, hey, don't fight it. You know, Fed's printing money, so you may as well go along with it. You know, that's not how investing works. You stick with one formula. You don't go which way the wind is blowing. And, you know, my philosophy is always, again, been buy good quality assets and then sit on your hands. There's going to be good years, incredible years, and then there's going to be terrible years along the way. And I've been through some bad ones. I talk about it in my book. I mean, my portfolio, we're talking over $1 million back in 08-09. Did I panic and sell anything? No, I was buying whatever I could. One of the reasons I did too is because I was still collecting all those cash flows, all those dividends. Very few of the companies I owned back in 08-09 ever cut or eliminated their dividend. Same thing with our COVID sell-off here. I only had a couple of companies that cut or temporarily eliminated their dividend. So I still was awash in cash coming in. Every single week I was getting a check from one of the companies I hold, and just putting that money to work at better prices. But you got to stick with the program. It's the old saying, you know, time in the market beats timing the market. And that's what you've got to do. Remember that. Stick with the program. For me, it's dividend growth investing, buying companies that not only pay a dividend, but have a track record, a long track record of increasing that dividend every single year like clockwork. You know, my average dividend increase is probably, it slowed a little bit with COVID here, but I'm probably still averaging about a 7%, 8% dividend growth rate. Meaning that if they pay me $1 this year, they're going to pay me $1.07 next year in the form of dividends. Well, when you've got inflation running at 2.5% and your dividend growth rate is accumulating at 3 times that amount, think about it. You know, you're never going to run out of money. If you build a big enough portfolio, you can start drawing down those dividends to live on, and you'll never have to worry about ever tapping into the principal. As a matter of fact, you know, it'll keep growing even after inflation. A couple other little things here. I was watching a documentary. I've seen this documentary before, actually. But it was called Saving Capitalism. And there's a whole bunch of these on Netflix and Crave. There's another one that I talked about a while ago. It was on the San Francisco housing crisis called San Francisco 2.0. Talked about, the tech companies moving in and displacing, long-term residents. They talk about Vancouver in there, and it's the very same situation that's happening here in San Francisco and New York and Miami and Southern California and London. All these, desirable cities are facing the same issue: a housing crisis, prices going up, people being marginalized, the wealthier getting richer, the poor going further back. And listen, I feel for these people. I do. I'm not some heartless realtor. In my opinion, we really should be starting to work the supply side more instead of trying to curb demand, which is what a lot of these kind of left-leaning governments in San Francisco and Southern California and Manhattan and in Vancouver have done. More taxes. And I don't think that's the answer. Maybe you can keep the taxes you got, but we should probably start working the supply side a bit more. But one of the things, on this saving capitalism, it talks, it's the same thing. People, the wealth gap is widening. And yeah, it is. There was a tremendous amount of money here made over this last year with COVID. I've been reading all kinds of articles in The Economist and in the Wall Street Journal. Nobody saw the stock market ripping like it's done here the last year or so. I mean, I've got stocks that I was buying back last March and April that are up over 100%. I mean, I tweeted out here, you could have if you bought the Canadian banks at this time last year, you're up almost 100% with the dividend. So there was a tremendous amount of money being made here, but at the same time, a lot of people fell further behind. And I feel for these small business owners, entrepreneurs, people that are out of work. The wealth gap is widening. But one of the things in the saving capitalism, it kind of points a bad picture at, big corporations, especially companies like Apple. And, what I tell people is, Apple, keep in mind, these big companies like Apple and Amazon and Google, I own all of them, and I've owned all of them for many years. Apple I've owned for over 12 years now. And, I could see the writing on the wall 12 years ago with Apple. And that's why I started slowly buying the stock. These are publicly traded companies that you can participate in. They act like it's kind of this dark, enigma that makes all this money and takes from people. Well, if you can't beat them, join them. You can buy these companies, and you don't need a lot of money to start. Buy one share, buy two shares. Start putting away a little bit of money into companies like Apple and Google and Amazon, or the Canadian banks, or CN Rail, or Visa, or Nike, or Home Depot. These are all fantastic companies that are publicly traded. They're owned by individual investors like me and you. You can participate in it. People ask me, "Oh, do you own any other businesses? Do you ever think about buying a business?" And I tell them I've owned 30 or 40 businesses. I own Nike, I own Home Depot, I own Apple. A lot of people don't realize that. When you buy a share of Apple, you're an owner of the company. You're going to participate in all their profits. You own a little piece of all their patents and their technology and everything else. So rather than fight it, do everything you can to put aside a little bit of money, pay yourself first, and participate in these companies. Buy them and hold them. Don't move around whichever way the wind blows, because you're going to buy good companies like Apple, and there are going to be some bad years. I've had some horrible years in Apple. As I speak right now, Apple has probably been down 20 out of the last 30 days. It's well off its highs, but that's the way Apple trades. It gets hot for a while, and then people sell it, take profit. They wait for the next iPhone release to come out, and then goes down 10%. Use those buying dips, those dips as good buying windows. But the secret is that you don't try and time a market. You buy these good quality companies, and then you hold on to them through thick and thin. You will have some companies that go awry on you. As Warren Buffett always used to say, even the greatest companies in the world, a ham sandwich could run these and they could still be incredibly profitable. And he used to say, eventually a ham sandwich will run these companies. One that comes to mind to me was Macdonald's, which I've owned for probably 15 years. They've had some great years, and then they've had some bad years where they had a bad CEO, and the stock got obliterated. But you use those times to buy more shares. You know, a couple other things that I've been reading in some of my books here, a couple other takeaways. You know, it says that, you know, when it comes to investors and just the general population, there's really two types of people. You know, I think this author called it their primary settings. And the primary setting for a lot of people is to get pleasure and entertainment. The other primary setting for most successful people is via achievement. And I think that's totally true. I know from my friends and my mentors and people I follow, sure, I like some entertainment just as much as everyone else. I love traveling and I like movies and all that stuff. But it's never been my primary setting. My primary setting is always to get better, to work on myself, build my real estate business, build my investment portfolio, try and learn a little bit more. That would be my primary setting. People that know me would probably say that as well. But you get an incredible amount of satisfaction from that, building something from nothing. And that's what I want, hopefully, you guys to do as well. I know a lot of my subscribers are on board with that. Try and get your primary setting as an achievement setting. Still have fun and entertainment, but that's what it's going to take in this world to buy a house in Vancouver or buy a condo in Vancouver or to get any type of retire early. Your primary setting is going to have to be goal-oriented and trying to get better. And it starts with little steps. Start small. You're not going to notice much in the first 10 or 15 years. I didn't. But if you can stick with the program, don't waffle around and change direction like the wind. Stick with your program. Buy, hold. It will pay dividends for you 20, 25 years from now. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to all my new subscribers. Thank you for everyone who's recently bought my book and done a review on Amazon. See you next week.